Good morning. I'm meteorologist Kevin Smith at the National Weather Service in Pocatello with another edition of your Southeast Idaho Weather Hazard Briefing. This is for Tuesday, July 12th. So looking at key points here as we go forward for the next week or so, we are trending into a hot pattern with increasing chances of thunderstorms. Those are going to be our two forefront hazards here as we go forward. So first, heat intensifies starting today. We're expecting high temperatures ranging from about 90 to 97 degrees today, and 92 to 100 degrees or so for Wednesday. So continuing to build as we head into tomorrow. That's for almost all of our lower elevation and valley population centers. Certainly it'll be a touch cooler than that in places like Island Park, up in Stanley, some other mountain locales. But for many of our lower elevation areas, this is the heat we are talking about. We're also expecting very poor recovery, very poor overnight cooling tonight into Wednesday morning. We actually do have a heat advisory that we have now issued for portions of the region, and this poor overnight recovery was a key thing we looked at in making that advisory decision. So not a lot of relief for some of you as we go through the night tonight, particularly if you do not have air conditioning. Encouraging everyone to practice heat safety, watch out for each other over the next few days, watch for signs of heat-related illnesses as we deal with these temperatures here, not just for the next couple days, I'll show you some graphics in a moment, but that heat expected to stick around for the foreseeable future here in Southeast Idaho. Outside of the heat, those thunderstorming chances are going to increase as well. We're seeing monsoon moisture to our south that is going to start streaming in and increasing today and Wednesday. Today, most of you are going to stay dry. Our thunderstorm risk today localized down to the Cassia County area, particularly between about 4 and 10 p.m. Just some isolated activity firing off the terrain down in that area. That risk of thunderstorms will expand everywhere as we go into Wednesday afternoon, and it will linger for Thursday and beyond, particularly in many of our mountain ranges, while places like the Snake Plain and Eastern Magic Valley will trend a bit drier as we go past Wednesday. Breaking it all down here by area in our weather risk outlook. Again, a lot going on here, and it's really three hazards we're looking at. We're talking about the heat, we're talking about thunderstorms for certain areas, and we're talking about some increased breezy conditions, particularly here on Wednesday and Thursday. You can review your zone of interest here on this graphic. Also lingering into Friday as well, particularly up across the Central Mountain region, staying a bit breezy. The hottest conditions and our greatest concern is going to be highlighted here where we have an orange moderate risk here on our table. That's the Snake Plain, the Eastern Magic Valley, portions of the South Hills down toward Malta and Oakley. Again, today and tomorrow, that's our heat advisory period. I'll show you that here in a moment. But Saturday, we've lit up as well. Saturday is kind of standing out as being potentially one of the hotter days of the next week as well. Looking around the region this morning, watches, warnings, and advisories that are currently in effect. Several of our surrounding weather service offices, as well as here in Pocatello, we have pulled the trigger now on a heat advisory, and you can see that shaded here in orange. It includes portions of the Treasure Valley out of the Boise office, also the Eastern Magic Valley, the Southern Highlands, and the Snake Plain corridor here out of our office. If you are headed to the south, even hotter conditions and even warmer temperatures overnight as we head down toward the Salt Lake City area and portions of central and northeastern Utah where an excessive heat warning is in effect. And all of these heat-related alerts go in effect today. Our heat advisory that we've issued right now covers today, tonight, and Wednesday here in southeast and south central Idaho. Nothing on satellite to talk about this morning. High pressure still in control ahead of all of this with clear skies across the region. So we're going to step forward day by day, just like we did yesterday. And our main graphics here on the left is going to show you the high temperatures that we're forecasting. And then here on the right, just like we did yesterday, is an index called heat risk. And what this does is it looks at temperatures, because that's certainly one of the biggest elements here, but it also looks at a little bit more. It looks at climatology for this time of year. What are the temperatures supposed to be like compared to our forecast? It looks at overnight relief, that cooling during the overnight and early morning hours. Are we actually going to see relief for folks who do not have air conditioning? Looks at CDC heat thresholds, looks at duration of the heat, things like that to provide you a better holistic picture of the hazard. So as we start off today, you can see those temperatures racing up into the 90s, quite a bit warmer than what we saw yesterday, 95 all the way up into the Rexburg area, some upper 90s creeping into the eastern Magic Valley and a few of the valleys down here across the south, 96 here in Pocatello, a little bit cooler, 83 if you're headed up into the Island Park area. You can see a lot of orange here up the eastern Magic Valley and Snake Plain corridor, up in the Chalice area as well, and then down into all of the southern valleys here on our heat risk. And that indicates a moderate risk for those who are sensitive to the heat, especially if you do not have effective cooling or adequate hydration available. If you start to see the reds creeping into some areas here, that's a higher risk of heat for most of the population, not just those who are sensitive to the heat or lacking that cooling. So a little bit more serious there as the color increases. Low temperatures as you wake up tomorrow morning if you're in the mountains or as you go north through the forecast area, not terrible. But look at the values we're forecasting here from the eastern Magic Valley across our southern valleys and even into Pocatello. 67 degrees right around daybreak, 68 out toward Jerome, 69 down in Oakley. And if you factor in, you'd be a little bit warmer inside most structures, even with the windows open if you don't have air conditioning. This is really not great cooling and relief for the overnight periods. Certainly much better as you head up towards Stanley and the Wood River Valley, the Island Park area. Even Idaho Falls, 60, doing just a little bit better there. So keep in mind that we've had some heat already this season, as recently as last week. But that overnight cooling is just not going to be as effective as what we've seen with the recent heat here as we've gone back. So definitely something to keep in mind as you go into Wednesday morning. Here's another look at our high temperatures on the left, heat risk on the right for Wednesday. A little bit of question here as to how much cloud cover will be around. And that kind of is a good thing and bad thing. On the bad side, it may blanket our area during the morning and help keep those temperatures warm for that lack of overnight cooling. During the day, if we do see quite a bit of cloud cover, it may take the edge off of high temperatures. But all of that in mind, our forecast still calling for another very hot day. Temperatures in the mid to upper 90s at most lower elevation areas. Chalice 94, possibly close to 100 as you get out here towards Shoshone, 97 over into Pocatello. Bit cooler, 85 in Island Park, 90 down toward Montpelier. And widespread orange again here on our heat risk. Again, risk for those who are sensitive to the heat and especially those without effective cooling or hydration, and certainly for those who are outside doing work or recreation as well. Severe weather outlook Wednesday, not currently expecting a lot of what we classify as severe weather, but keep in mind Wednesday's our best thunderstorm day. So everywhere across southeast Idaho is going to have a chance of seeing at least an isolated, if not scattered thunderstorm in the area. And we'll be watching for some gusty winds, maybe some small hail, a few heavy downpours in some of these cells as well as we start to increase that moisture going into Wednesday. A little bit breezier on Wednesday as well. So this is a look on the left at our forecast wind gusts, and then a look on the right at our afternoon minimum relative humidity values, particularly for our fire weather partners. So certainly there's some areas as we go through the course of the week between the heat, between the breeziness, between the low relative humidity that we're going to have to evaluate whether or not we'll reach our red flag criteria. And one thing that's really going to affect that is the status of the fuels as we check in with our fire weather partners on whether all of the fuels are dry enough to support those critical fire weather conditions. Stepping into Thursday, temperatures once again in the 90s region-wide, maybe a couple degrees cooler than what we saw Wednesday, but still quite warm out there. You can see once again widespread orange values here on our heat risk, kind of starting to sound like a broken record here, unfortunately. And we'll show those wind gusts and relative humidity values again for Thursday afternoon. Again, breezy across the region. Some of the higher elevations here, you can see gusting over 30 miles an hour, and the entire region gusting to about 20 to 25 or so, even at lower elevations. Some of those relative humidity values, again, dropping below 15%, particularly in some of the valleys and out across the Arco Desert and Shoshone area on Thursday. Friday. This should look very familiar. We're going to do, once again, hot conditions, orange heat risk values across a wide swath of the area. A few isolated thunderstorms lingering both Thursday and Friday in our mountain ranges, although drier in the Snake Plain and eastern Magic Valley. Just not seeing any relief from this hot, dry pattern that is in place. And one more step forward into Saturday, a broken record again, isolated thunderstorms in the mountains, possibly even warmer temperatures here. Our current forecast calling for 100 degrees for Shoshone and Pocatello, 98 in Burley, almost to 90 degrees now up in the Island Park area, which is normally a little cooler, and a little bit more red creeping in here on our heat risk outlook. Again, that's a higher risk for the entire population, just based on those temperatures. And overnight recovery, again, doesn't look great in the current forecast, particularly as you head into Saturday night and Sunday morning. So the pattern will continue. Reminders on heat safety once again, because we just showed you it's going to be very hot for the foreseeable future. Remember, never leave people or pets alone in a closed car, ever. That's very important. I'll show you another graphic here in a sec. Drink plenty of water, even if you don't feel thirsty. Try to wear loose-fitting clothing if possible. Take breaks in the shade and air conditioning. Look before you lock your vehicle. These are some statistics here for the United States, and 100% of these child deaths can be avoided. Be very conscious of making sure that both children and pets are not left in a vehicle on hot days like what we're going to see the next few days across the region. And a reminder on heat exhaustion and heat stroke symptoms as well with the heat that is building in. Last slide here, if you're curious about where our drought is at, here is the latest Idaho Drought Monitor image that was valid as of just a few days ago. This is the most recent release. We certainly made a lot of progress with a wet spring and early summer across the region, so we're still holding it abnormally dry, but not official drought as you get up here into portions of the Central Mountains up toward the Montana border, and then drying as you go south. Much of the Snake Plain corridor in a moderate drought as of this classification, and still some severe drought as you head down toward the Utah border. So while we did make some progress during the spring and early summer, unfortunately the outlooks are calling for above normal temperatures and below normal precipitation, warm and dry signals as we continue here through the summer. And that's the latest here for your risks across Southeast Idaho. If you have questions, comments, concerns, as always, we're here to answer them. Feel free to reach out via phone or email, or visit our website at weather.gov/Pocatello, also available on social media. Everybody have a great Tuesday.